more inclusive political environment. A very good evening. The time is 7 o'clock. Welcome to Disability Inclusion. Thanks for joining us on another edition of your favorite weekend program, Disability Inclusion, on the network service of Radio Nigeria. I'm your host to the most, Jennifer Ogle. Welcome to Radio Nigeria's network. And the program is Disability Inclusion, like I said earlier. And on the program, we talk about persons with disabilities. We hash out issues that they face. We talk about also the opportunities that they ought to enjoy, their basic rights, and of course, prefer solution to fostering disability inclusion here in Nigeria. The title of today's topic is Able to Serve Campaign Strategies for Fostering a More Inclusive Political Environment. In case you didn't get that the first time, we are taking a look at Able to Serve Campaign. So, if you've been following our program from last year, we've been coming up with ideas, campaign strategies on how to foster inclusion, especially in the political sphere. And before the general election, which occurred earlier in the year, we were talking about able to vote for persons with disabilities. And now we have arrived at this moment, at this juncture, to talk about able to serve. Yes, it's time for us to start being appointed as members in top positions of authority here in our country. So, able to serve campaign strategies for fostering a more inclusive political environment. So, this is a phone in program where you get to participate, throw in your opinions, your suggestions, and of course, let's talk about the topic for today. So, the appointment of cabinet members is a critical aspect of governance as it determines the policies and decisions made at the highest levels of government. However, historically, persons with disabilities have been underrepresented in these positions, resulting in policies that often overlook the needs and rights of these marginalized groups. There is therefore a need to advocate for disability inclusion in the appointment of cabinet members at the national and subnational levels for the incoming government. Yes, so our guests for today's program are beautiful gentlemen here. They are coming in from South Africa. We have the program manager, Mr. Olayemi Samuel. Good evening, Mr. Olayemi.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we have our not he's not a visitor. All right, the assistant program manager, Mr. George Anwine, also from South Africa. Good to see you, Mr. George.
Good to see you, Jennifer. Good evening, listeners.
Yeah, so like I told you earlier in the program, this program is audience participatory. We are also streaming on our social media handles on Facebook at TAF Africa, on Instagram and Twitter at TAF_Africa. Yes, and the WhatsApp number to send in your messages to is 0908 875 7498. 0908 874 875, I beg your pardon, 7498. All right, let's get into the topic of discussion. Our guests are here to, talk about what we have at hand, Mr. George and Mr. Samuel, the program manager and assistant program manager from South Africa. So we're talking about able to serve campaign strategies for fostering a more inclusive political environment. First of all, let's get to know what when we talk about able to serve, what do we mean and what are we trying to achieve? Let's start with Mr. George.
Okay, so Able to Serve is a campaign to advocate for persons with disabilities inclusion in the political processes,
Okay.
specifically about appointing them into political offices, both at the federal, state, and local government levels. Yes, of course, you highlighted earlier about able to vote. Yes, so we're saying persons with disability are not able to vote. They are also able to serve. Yes, so and we have quite a number of persons with disabilities who are interested in politics. So they shouldn't be deprived that opportunity and the right to also serve like every other citizen in this country. So the campaign is creating awareness about the ability and the capacity of persons with disabilities, to hold political offices and do very well in those offices. And it's also a means to encourage persons with disabilities to participate. Those who are interested to participate, encourage them that yes, space is being created for them in the political in the political environment for them to participate fully in politics. So that is what the campaign is about. It's about sensitizing decision makers, political parties, elected individuals such as the president, the governors, the senators, and everyone that person with disability can be appointed as ministers. They can be appointed as commissioners. Can be appointed as special assistant. Before now, what you hear is person being appointed as SAs on disability matters to governors and all of that. So we're saying yes, we still want that, but beyond that, we need persons to be appointed into positions such as ministerial positions, ambassadors, all right, commissioners, and all of that. So that is what the campaign is about.
Okay, Olayemi Samuel, would you like to add to that?
Okay, just like you said, Able to Serve campaign is a strategic advocacy campaign
Okay.
on disability inclusion, most especially in the area of appointment of PWDs.
Okay.
Over the years, there has been low level of participation of persons with disabilities in governance and political process. And there's a need for us to increase their participation. So this campaign is one of the strategies that we are adopting in increasing the participation of persons with disabilities in governance. Most especially, this campaign is targeted at key stakeholders like senators, policymakers, elected public officers, and so on. Trying to sensitize them on the need for them to begin to appoint persons with disabilities such that they can also contribute to good governance and national development.
Okay, so what are the key arguments supporting the appointment of persons with disabilities in, government cabinets?
So, for instance, there are number of framework at national and international level that promotes the rights of persons with disabilities. And when you talk about these, everyone has a right to participate in governance. And one of the ways we can also encourage the participation or promote the participation of persons with disabilities is to give them room for them to contribute their own quota. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of policies in Nigeria today, that fail to promote disability inclusion. And those that even have components of disability inclusion, when it comes to implementation of those policies, there have been gaps. So there's a need for us to incorporate persons with disability to be part of the design right from the beginning, through the implementation stage, through the monitoring and evaluation stage, and of course, in also providing further recommendation on how to promote inclusivity. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. George, you have something to say?
Yeah, so just like you said, it is the person that wears the shoe that knows where it pinches.
Mm.
And so if persons with disability are not involved in political processes, in
Mm.
decision making, I mean, you don't expect whatever decision that eventually is taken to be inclusive, because it is the person that is going through the challenge or the problem that knows how difficult it is for them. So it's very important that persons with disability are involved, are appointed. It's actually a matter of right, though we're advocating, but they're human beings who can participate. And then of course they have been marginalized for too long. It is time to allow persons with disability, come into the political space to play their role, in contributing to national development. It's high time. I mean, we are at that point now.
Mm.
You can't talk about development. I keep saying you can't talk about development without inclusion. Once inclusion is lacking, of course, that is underdevelopment.
Mm.
So one of the things to check if you want to see the country is developing is to check the extent to which that country is including marginalized groups into its processes. So that is why it is important, to include persons with disability and appoint them into political offices so that they can be part of decision making in the government.
Okay, the WhatsApp number is 0908 875 7498. We'll be taking our news update very shortly, but just to let you know that we are streaming on our social media handles on Facebook at Half Africa, on Instagram and Twitter at Half_Africa. I'll be calling out our phone lines after our news update. Do stay with us. The program is Disability Inclusion.
This thing is very heavy.
I don't know why.
Maybe we need to advocate for a change of the headset.
Mhm.
Man of God, happy birthday. I bring you greetings from the Corinthians Church. That's a celebration.
Lynn, I'm going to actually walk you out of the studio if I hear that noise again. I'll walk you out. This is not a playing ground. And you're laughing. What makes you to laugh? Well, many thanks to my uncle for me up with the news update. If you're just joining us, the program is still Disability Inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria. And on today's edition, we're talking about the Able to Serve campaign, um, fostering a more inclusive political environment. Yes, that's the discussion for today's program. And our guest is the program manager and the assistant program manager from TAF Africa, George Awai and Samuel Olayemi. Thanks for staying tuned. The number to call is 0705 149 3324 or 0915 091048, 0705 149 3324 or 0915 091048. The WhatsApp number is 0908 875 7496. Our guests are still standing by for today's edition as we're talking about the Able to Serve campaign. Now, Mr. George, how does inclusive representation contribute to the promotion of equality and human rights in Nigeria?
Yes, when persons with disability are included, generally, marginalized groups that are already downtrodden and are missing out on everything, when they are included, when their right is respected and they are recognized, I mean, it will go a long way to show you that that is an inclusive society. When you have an inclusive society, of course, human rights will be respected. And so when you have person with disability involved, included, or having equal representation in the political process, it will contribute to a greater extent in the promotion of human rights in any given society and equality. What we're saying is that they have been marginalized for too long. All right, person with disability have been marginalized for too long. And when we recognize that these are human beings, the first thing is that a person with disability is a human being, like every other person. So if you see the humanity in persons with disability, that will go a long way to show that every human being should be given equal opportunity to participate and be represented in every sphere of life, not just in politics.
So when you're saying a person with disability is a human being, can you throw more light on that?
All
So
right.
that the audience and the listener you get to understand what you mean.
Okay, so I'm George.
Okay.
I'm an amputee,
Okay.
a person with disability,
Okay.
and I'm a human being. Yes, I'm a human being first before my disability.
Okay.
I have blood flowing through my veins.
Hello, good evening. We have our first caller on today's program. Who do we have on the line and where are you calling us from? Thank you so much, Fido, for calling us today. Hmm. Thank you so much, Fidel. 0705 149 3324 or 0915 0910482 0915 Hello, good evening. All right. On today's edition on disability inclusion, we are talking about able to serve. Mr. Samuel, you heard the caller and what he said about giving a certain percentage of probably cabinet members or legislators now reserved for persons with disabilities. You think it's possible? How is this achievable? What's your opinion? What's your reaction to what he said?
Yeah, thank you. I think the caller actually made a valid point. If you look at the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act 2018, the act actually made a provision for 5% for employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. However, that act, I think for me, there's a gap because we're only talking about employment opportunities.
Okay.
That should be further reviewed to incorporate appointments of persons with disabilities. So that should be clearly stated. In going further, there's also this agitation that 5% is too small for persons with disabilities because in Nigeria,
where is the agitation coming
from stakeholders,
Okay.
disability inclusion advocates, representative of organization of persons with disabilities, and other stakeholders. In Nigeria today, we have over 30 million persons with disabilities. Like I said earlier on, there's low participation of PWDs in political process. However, my thought aligns with that of the caller One thing is we can be advocating, but they also need to be fully involved. So, for instance, they need to be a member of political parties. They need to register, participate.
Can you hold that thought? You have another caller. Hello, good evening. Hello. Hello. Please call. Good evening. We have you now. Hello. Good evening, sir. What's your name and location, please? Okay. Mm. Yeah, go ahead. Please, we lost you. Kindly call us back. All right, Mr. Abuna, I would really like to have you. So before the caller interrupted Mr. Samuel, kindly go ahead.
So, PWDs should register as a political party member. However, beyond that, there are a number of PWDs that have competence, that have passion that can actually contribute to the development of the country, who are not probably member of any political party. Such people can also be considered in this appointment, because sometimes some of them have reasons for staying away from being in politics. However, they have a lot to contribute. So it should be 50-50 for those who are political member and those who are not member of any political party.
Okay, based on what Mr. Abuna said, he said PWD should come out and actually, participate and actually make their voices heard, because you are the one that will actually make that first step. In light of this, Mr. George, what will you say about this, level of representation and inclusiveness? How do you think it can contribute to promoting, equality? Sorry, how do you think it can bring decision making process now to the table? How do you think it can help in terms of decision making processes in the country?
Yes, so like you were saying about
Mm.
person with disability participating, I would say there is an increase in interest. Person with disability, because of the campaign we have been on, we work with the PWDs, OPDs, and other CSOs to do that. And person with disability are coming out because they are encouraged. Even the law encourage person with disability to participate fully in politics and public life generally. So there have been that increase in interest. Of course, we want to see more of that as we keep engaging with PWDs themselves and stakeholders. That being said, this in decision making, like I said earlier, when persons with disabilities are involved in decision making, because they know where the problems are, what they are facing, they bring a kind of compassion to the thing. I keep saying leadership is about being compassionate and firm. So when there is no compassion, you may end up not getting much, from leaders. So person with disability bring that angle because they have gone through this, with the comfort. I'm quoting the Bible now. With the comfort you have received, you comfort others. Now, when somebody have gone through a thing and experience it, so you know what it means first, and so he developed that compassion for others who are going through the same thing. And so when decisions are to be taken, those things will be considered to ensure that everybody is included. Like if you are, for example, if a person with disability is part of it, that's the executive, the federal government, the federal government, and when you go to meet, and then you see that the buildings are not accessible, such persons who are there will influence government decision to ensure that persons with disability are considered in infrastructural development and every other aspect of development. So when they are there, they influence some of these things so that we have an inclusive society. So it's not just about, when we say inclusion, it's not just about them being part of decision making or being there as representing persons with disability. We're also saying that they help to make the society inclusive by the decisions that are taken, during meetings in the cabinet.
Okay, still disability inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria. We would like to entertain more views, more opinion, more suggestions from you. Kindly call any of these numbers: 0705 149 3324 or 0915 091 0482. We go on a quick break now. When we come back, The program Disability Inclusion will still be on your airwaves. To stay with us.
They don't care about us. That's what Michael Jackson is saying. Um, um, there's something I want to tell you that I just forgot.
About the song,
Your microphone.
it's
You are
not
talking
positioned
off. You
well.
are speaking off mic. Push the mic here since you want to be seeing their faces. So that when you are talking, you can pick.
Mine is okay, right?
Yes, okay.
Mm? All right, I guess what Jackson is trying to say is government sometimes, and we actually do not want to believe that, don't give priority to the marginalized groups in the society. And this is a cry for advocacy. We are promoting inclusion, especially for the marginalized groups in the society. It's still disability inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria. And you just heard that hit song from Michael Jackson titled They Don't Really Care About Us. My name is Jennifer Ogo, your host on the program, and it's good to know you're still tuned to the network service of Radio Nigeria. On the program today, we are taking a look at the Able to Serve campaign strategies for fostering a more inclusive political environment. So far, we've had the pleasure of discussing with our most notable guest here in the studio from TAF Africa, yes, formerly known as the Albino Foundation, now the All Right Foundation Africa. So we have the program manager, Mr. Olayemi Samuel, and the assistant program manager, Mr. George Awai, here with us to talk about the Able to Serve campaign. So far, they've been talking about strategies on how we can use these strategies to foster inclusiveness in the political space. But something happened most recently, Mr. George, and I think we should probably talk about that. For most people that might not know, that is the Able to Serve stakeholders meeting that was held some days back. I wasn't there, but can you just briefly tell us what that meeting was about? What did staff hope to achieve, and what should we be looking forward to?
Yeah, so that's part of the efforts TAF is making to ensure the inclusion of persons with disability in political appointments. So the aim of the program is to get stakeholders together and discuss. That's why it's called stakeholders strategic roundtable discussion, to discuss about the issues of persons with disabilities and how they can be included in political appointments. Of course, this is a critical period in Nigeria where elected persons are, planning how their cabinet will look like. So we felt that it's important for stakeholders to come together, political parties, OPDs, other CSOs, NCPWD, and other critical stakeholders who also have a stake in these processes, so that we can discuss to see what are the ways, how can we ensure that the next administration include persons with disabilities in their political appointments, in key offices, not just ACs, as I earlier said. So at the meeting, we had a discussion. Persons with disability were there also, OPDs were there, and everybody spoke their mind. Of course, you expect, as you will expect, persons with disability, voiced out how they have been excluded over time in the political climate in Nigeria, and want much. I mean, they want much more from politics. And of course, the political parties were also there, and they made their commitment about making sure that persons with disability are included in the next administration. For those who won at the various level, APC was represented there, PDB2 was represented, and other stakeholders were there. So we had a very fruitful discussion, and of course, from that discussion, a communique was produced to say that these are the demands for persons with disability. And of course, we are talking about 5%, and what they are doing is 10%. I mean, there was a general agreement that at least 10% should be given to persons with disabilities as political appointments. For example, out of all the ministers in the federal, I mean, the federal level, there was a demand that persons with disabilities should be given like at least 4 ministerial positions.
I was actually going to ask you, this administration that is about to leave now, specifically the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, is actually going to be recognized and remembered for, their efforts towards disability inclusion, and that is
Very true.
signing the Disability Act into law. President Muhammadu Buhari will not be forgotten for that. What should we be expecting from this incoming government? I mean, in terms of disability inclusion. Okay, we have another caller. Hello, good evening. All right. Thank you, Chief Video. I think he has just thrown this challenge now to the table, to tap and other OPDs now.
Yes.
What I mean, just react to
If I
what
may
he said.
respond to that, yeah, he made a very valid point. But you see, in these things, you have to be strategic. Okay, we're talking about getting persons with disability appointed into decision-making positions where they can influence government policies. So without policies, without a legal framework, you won't be able to do much. So even talking to the grassroots, but by the time there are policies on ground, to encourage the participation of persons with disability, or to enforce, the rights of persons with disability, it will trickle down to the grassroots.
I think what I don't know if I'm right, if I'm sure you are listening to me. I think what he's trying to say is, getting those in the grassroots, carrying them along, getting them involved, making them, because most of like this able to serve stakeholders meeting now, I was able to know, due to the internet, my phone, I followed your social media handles and I saw that. But if I was in a very remote area now without this kind of technology, I wouldn't have known. So I'm just trying to say, get these people in the grassroots level, get them, informed, carry them along. Because as much as would like what we are doing, they're actually involved. And the majority safe, I don't have a particular statistic, I don't have a data for this. The majority of when we talk about persons with disabilities, they're actually not here in the city. They are there at the grassroots. So how can we force, when we say this inclusiveness, carrying them along, making sure that they're informed and getting them involved, like how do we get there?
Okay, so Jennifer, we run programs in phases. All right. Okay, so this program is targeted at getting persons with disability appointed at every level, and don't forget that also includes, the local government level and all of that. There are other programs we have. We're already having all of that in pipeline, targeting the grassroots particularly. Targeting the grassroots particularly to get them interested, in what is happening within their locality and within the government, even at the local level. So we also have those strategies to also reach out to ensure that persons with disability at the grassroots level, also participate. But like I said, that does not mean that this Able to Serve campaign is not also very key in terms of reaching out to the grassroots level. Like I mentioned, policies influenced that will help persons with disability at every level to participate in the political process and public life generally. It's very important and very key. I believe that Mr. Olayemi, you have
Yes,
more to say.
I was actually going to get to him.
Yeah, in addition to what you said, I think we have started that campaign. We're able to sensitize PWDs at the grassroots level, trying to tell them what they need to know about their rights. And of course, even this last election, we'll be able to sensitize a lot of them on the need for them to participate in the election, and they actually came out massively. So these are part of the effort that we are making. Is continuous, and we'll continue to do more using various platforms to reach out to PWDs at the grassroots.
So do we have, other measures or strategies from TAF now to ensure that persons with disabilities have equal access to appointed positions, especially in this incoming government?
So first and foremost, like I said, we have been doing a lot, but focusing on capacity building. So we're able to build the capacity of PWDs on their rights and how they can also contribute to governance and national development. Secondly, is our advocacy engagement. We'll be able to do a kind of stakeholders analysis, identifying key stakeholders to be engaged in advocating for the appointment of persons with disabilities. So, like he said, we'll be engaging a number of stakeholders. We've engaged political parties. We've even engaged some of the governors elect of selected states. So the conversation and engagement is ongoing. Then outside that, we also explore our public awareness campaign using different strategies to reach out to targeted stakeholders in ensuring that they are fully aware of the role WDs can play in national development.
Okay, how can political parties, help in promoting inclusion for persons with disabilities?
Yes, by giving a level playing ground for everybody, including persons with disabilities, giving them, like already it is stipulated in the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2018, that 5% employment should be reserved for persons with disabilities. So I feel that can also, we can probably live from there. Whatever we are doing, we at least a minimum, give reserve particular position for persons. Some political parties have actually done some things. They have PWD leaders, national leaders, and then of course zonal leaders and all of that. But we're saying that is not enough. We need more. So when you get more persons with disability involved in party politics, that will also determine, to a large extent, if they will be included when it comes to political appointments. Of course, we run the party system in Nigeria, so of course, if persons with disability are not involved from the political party level or encouraged to participate, we may have issues when it comes to appointments. So political parties have a very key role to play in ensuring that persons with disability are involved. I mean, we look forward to seeing one day a person with disability becoming a party chairman. All right. Presently, some parties, what they have is that they have women leader taking care of issues of a person with disability in the party. why don't we have, person with disability, take care of their own issues? So if we have person with disability involved and encourage them to be part of the political process and have them take, key functions in the party, for example, the national working committees national working committees of political parties, to be part of it. With that will encourage a lot of persons to come out and participate in politics.
So, sorry, in addition to what you said, I think for me, political parties should, practice inclusivity by ensuring that their constitution, policies centered around disability inclusion. Secondly, is the fact that they also need to ensure the implementation and enforcement of those laws. So, for instance, they may have vague kind of narrative. There's a need for them to have clear indicators. So, if I want to measure disability inclusion, there are key indicators we should be looking out for to actually conclude that political parties have provisions for persons with disability. Also, is the need for them to put monitoring and evaluation systems in place. So there should be a committee set up to ensure the enforcement of those laws. They can actually track those implementation by documenting the gaps, the strengths, and probably recommendation for maybe subsequent improvement on some of those policies or even their constitution at large.
07051493324, 07051493324. Hello, good evening. 07051493324 or 0915091048. We'll go on another quick break. When we come back, we have more on the program Disability Inclusion. Just stay with us. It's still disability inclusion on the network service of Radio Nigeria. Thanks for staying tuned. We're gradually wrapping up. We have our guests from TAF Africa to talk about the Able to Serve campaign, fostering inclusivity in our political space. That's what we've been talking about today. And before we went on that music break, Mr. Samuel Olayemi, the program manager, was talking about some policies that some of our teams need to carry out, need to formulate, in their with in their activity or amongst the activity in order to accommodate persons with disabilities into whatever they're doing. But can you tell us other existing policies in Nigeria now at the national level that aim to encourage the appointment of persons with disabilities? We have them.
So the act that we have, the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act 2018, actually make a provision for 5% of employment opportunities. However, that is not clearly stated. There's a need for us to begin to call for a review of that act to make provision for appointment of persons with disabilities. So that should be clearly stated such that we can begin to advocate for the implementation. And like we said earlier on, we are also calling on respective stakeholders to join hands with us in advocating for 10% for persons with disability. So there's a
Okay,
need.
from 5% to 10%.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a need for us to call for review of the act, ensuring that that component of appointment of persons with disability is clearly stated in the act.
Okay, are we even there? Because even the 5% of employment,
Yeah,
have we even achieved?
yes, we are not
Have
there
we
yet.
achieved it,
We are
Mr.
not there
George?
yet, but the it's a demand because
Okay.
the provision of the act says at least 5%. So
So
of course, 5%
yes,
it
it's
can
not
it can
limited to
thank you to
5%. Yes.
5%. So that is that. But yeah, that in terms of implementation, honestly, there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap in terms of implementation concerning the appointment of, the employment of persons with disability and the appointment. Section 30 of that very Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2018 also encourage persons with disability to participate fully in politics and public life generally, and also mandated government to promote the environment for the full participation of persons with disability in politics, in associations and other things. So importantly from that, government has a huge role to play, to ensure that they promote that environment, that enabling environment for this person with disability to really, want to come out and participate.
All right. 0705 149 3324 or 0915 091 0482. Now, as usual, let's give you some information about the Disability Act. When we talk about this Disability Act, and we try to spell it out to you in details during the program, because we know most of you might not have, the luxury of time to actually go through this act and know what it stipulates. So, guess what? Guess what the Disability Act says about the certificate of disability. Yes. So, Section 22 of the Disability Act provides that a person with a mental disability shall obtain a permanent certificate of disability from the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. So, a doctor who suspects disability in the course of treatment of a person who before was not a person with any form of disability may, with the approval of the Commission, issue a temporary certificate of disability which shall last for a maximum of 180 days. And if such disability persists beyond that period, the Commission, on a doctor's recommendation, may issue the person a permanent certificate of disability. So a person issued with a certificate of disability is entitled to all rights and privileges under the Act. Thanks for staying tuned on the program Disability Inclusion. Now time where we get to announce our star of the week. And our star of the week is Abdurrahman Awal. Just stay with us.
This is our credit line. So we are gradually wrapping up.
Many thanks to Mama Paul for coming up with that inspiring message. It's still disability inclusion on the Service of Radio Nigeria. We have less than 5 minutes to wrap up the program, but before we go, we'd just like to hear briefly from our guest concerning the topic for today, which is the Able to Serve campaign strategies for fostering a more inclusive political environment. So, I'd like to start from the program manager, Mr. Olaim Samuel. What message do you have for the public? What message do you have for the disability community and also the government regarding what we've been discussing so far? Briefly.
For disability community, I think we need to intensify awareness by increasing what persons with disability need to know about governance and even about their rights. So like one of the callers said, there's a need for us to take the campaign to grassroots level. South Africa cannot be everywhere. Hence the need for other OPDs at the grassroots to spread this message, ensuring that all persons with disabilities are fully aware of their rights and the need for them to participate in governance.
Okay, sorry if you're out of time. Let me just let Mr. George, have his final message for government stakeholders, CSOs.
Okay, so for government,
Mm.
implementation is key.
Mm.
All the provisions in the acts need to be implemented. If we even have that, we'll have moved forward. And then again, for CSOs, other stakeholders, we need to synergize, partner together, collaborate, and advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities. And of course, for every individual, it is not for person with disability alone. Disability inclusion is for everybody. So if you're hearing us now, please take the message to your community. Let everybody knows that person with disability also have a right to be appointed into political offices.
Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest, Mr. Samuel Olayemi, the program manager, and the assistant program manager, George Awain. Many thanks for joining us today. And that's it today on Disability Inclusion on Radio Nigerian Network. For more information on the activities of TAF Africa, visit our website at www.tafafrica.co or send a message to 0703-137-719-77352. We also want to thank our audience, on our online medium who viewed us and watched our live stream. Many thanks for joining us, and also to our callers, very estimable callers. Always a pleasure participating. We sincerely appreciate you, Chief Fidel Oyeneke from Oruna, DK from Ebonyi State. Thank you so much. The engineers on duty are Hassan Usman and Debo Ademiola. The studio manager for tonight, Latu Mohammed. Until next time, this program is brought to you by TAF Africa, funded by the European Union through its to democratic governance in Nigeria. Many thanks to the studio manager, Stephen Isabu. Until next time, I remain Jennifer Ogo. The next program on our lineup for tonight is Youth Connect.